We were today in the live stream at Copper Lake, and we really tested feed mixes well on common carp. Yes, there was a big test. We discussed for a long time back and forth what is best to test and how is best to test. And then we gathered here with some players at Copper Lake and tested, all here at the same spot and all with slightly different feed mixes. But the base for most players was the classic carp feed mix. We will take a look at that in detail again in a moment. And with this classic carp feed mix, it really went off properly. Also, I am now here actively testing another version of the classic carp feed mix. When we press N and click there on the feed mixes, we have here in the lower section the standard feed mixes for the different fish species. And among them, we of course also find the carp feed mix. We can of course make it in the ball form, we can deliver it with the spod rocket, or also in PVA. For that, we of course just have to rebuild the whole thing. And I have now done that here once with the dry feed mix. So this is now here, the original carp feed mix. And what we just did in the stream was that we changed the base. And that already seems to have an effect because with different base aromas, we then also had again different results. And surprisingly, we had fantastic results with this simple feed mix without feed pellets. The big question in making the feed mix is of course always which of these components and which aroma has which effect on the fish. And the ultimate question is of course, does the spot work because of the feed mix or despite the feed mix? So does it work despite the different aromas that I have in there or because I have these aromas in there? So that's always the fundamental question. What we have learned from RF4 in the meantime is that such a feed mix is not a good idea. So feed pellet, all from the same version, has no additional attracting effect. That means we waste, in this case, 2 slots, or we simply waste hard silver because the simple feed pellets have no effect, meaning we could make the feed mix exactly the same way without it, and it would have the same effect. So if you want to save some silver in the future when using feed pellets, you just build the next feed mix like this. So with crushed boilie or whole boilie, and once the large feed pellets for big fish, or the smaller feed pellets for more mass, and then of course also somewhat smaller fish. Additionally, we now of course would have the possibility to bring in other components. For example, we could integrate simple components from the grocery store, and depending on the fish species, they even have a really good effect. Whether it is rice, milk powder, or maybe even oat flakes that you have to decide, and that of course also again has to be tested. Besides the aromas from the grocery store, we also have further aromas from the tackle shop. And there we then see here these aromas, or rather these base feed mix components. We have flaxseed here, or corn kernel, nut mix is in here, or breadcrumbs. Such a component in the feed mix is certainly a good idea. I personally always like to combine such a thing with the base that I use. That means in this case, if I now have corn as base, and maybe even as bait, use a pop-up corn kernel, I also like to use a corn component in the ingredients. Let's come back to the test that we did today. So we stood here for 1 hour in the tournament, and as already said, used the completely normal base carp feed mix, but then in different versions. My version is the carp feed mix with the base mixed feed. The mixed feed we get at Windenbach and there at the farmer. Why now specifically the mixed feed? I chose the mixed feed because the feed mix for carp, or how carp are fed in farming, is always very complex. So carp apparently eat an insane number of different aromas and components, from vegetables to fruit to larvae, from rather fishy aromas up to sweet aromas. The feed mix is always very complex. Accordingly, I then also use the mixed feed as base. In addition then of course again the classic components from the standard carp feed mix, and directly again cast out here at this spot at 17 meters relaxed. So we stood here exactly at this pier, which has been running really well for some time, and I'm now curious how it will be soon. If we maybe again have a weather change or other spots are active, then I will just continue testing. And indeed, these standard carp feed mix components, but always with a different base. Whether it is biscuit or oat flakes or sunflower seeds, I will test through all the different base aromas once and always try again which of them then works best. If you feel like testing it, just try it out at the same spot. We have in Discord an area that is called Team Spot Search. There you can also share your experience, post your your feed mix that you have built together. So ideally, this classic carp feed mix with a different base and how your result was with this completely normal base feed mix. Or just write it also down in the comments below. Then we will have here plenty of information also under this video. The huge advantage of such a feed mix is, of course, that we can now stand here with the most different baits. During the test, I fished the whole time with 3 or rather 4 different baits. That means I was not limited to only one aroma because I had fed the whole spot with strawberry, but instead I stood here with banana, with strawberry, with spice, and later also with blackcurrant. That is, of course, the big advantage of a neutral feed mix. That means we are then not so limited on the baits and can simply switch when we notice that the one aroma on the bait no longer works so well. Then the one bait simply falls out as aroma. You switch to another aroma and can just keep fishing. And the next one here, very nice, out with spice. Most effective for me was the spice combination, then the combination with the blackcurrant, and of course also the combination with banana. Those were the aromas that worked best for me in this hour. The whole topic with the feed mix is by far not yet completely researched and by far not yet completely thought through. What we do know, 3 times, 4 times the same feed pellets of the same aroma is waste, and it has no additional benefit. But which aromas now are especially attractive for which fish that we still don't quite know? There are hints, there are assumptions where one can say the one or the other fish already has certain preferences, and with a special feed mix we can attract the fish a bit more. But to figure that out simply needs insanely many players. Because the more players test it, the easier it is to exclude these different variables and influences, such as the weather, different skill points, different rods and setups, because you simply have a wider spread spectrum of results. So if you want to join in, get in there in the big test, try out how it works for you, which base in the standard carp feed mix works best for you, and then also feel free to share. The link to the Discord is under the video and there in the area Team Spot Search. Share your results with the community. If it helped you, leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Helps me a lot. And then we'll see each other in the next video. Until next time, tight lines.